2.5 weeks left in the regular season, and the race for that top seed is heating up. Welcome to This Week in Big Sky Basketball. Hello and welcome to This Week in Big Sky Basketball. I'm your host, Megan Robinson. Idaho State's a team that looks more and more dangerous the closer we get to Boise. They've won 3 of their last 4 and are led by point guard Dylan Darling, who has scored 107 points in those last 4 games, 30 of which came Saturday in their win over Weber State. Their road trip continues as they head up to Montana this week for a rematch with the Grizzlies and the Bobcats in games that will certainly impact the Big Sky standings. To discuss these matchups, let's bring in head coach Ryan Looney. Coach, your Bengals have won 3 of the last 4. What's been working for you guys these last few weekends?
Well, I think all year long, we've been a very good rebounding team. I think all the numbers would indicate that. Our guys are continuing to be locked in that area, but I think we've had really good guard play. Dylan Darling and Jake O'Neal just keep getting better for us.
You mentioned Dylan Darling. He has scored at least 20 points in your last 4 games, had a career high 30 in that win Saturday night. What has he brought to your program this season?
You know what? I think the thing I love about him most is his competitive spirit. And I don't think everyone realizes Dylan and I have a pretty good relationship. We come from the same town. We played at the same high school, had a lot of people in basketball in our lives that were similar. So I felt like I had a really good pulse in regards to what we were getting with Dylan. I just wished we would have got him when he was in high school before he went to Washington State, but thankful that he's with us here now.
On the broadcast, they mentioned that someone his size, you don't often see toughness coming from someone his size, and that he's kind of like a bull in a china shop running around out there. Where do you think that scrappiness comes from?
Probably his dad. Dad was a fantastic athlete, same age as myself. Growing up in Eastern Washington, he went to Washington State, played middle linebacker, and had a long NFL career. And I just know what kind of influence James has had on Dylan.
Dylan is one of a handful of new players on your roster this season. You and I have talked in the past about the challenges of having a new roster in the recruiting process. What are the fun parts of having so many new faces in your locker room for this season?
Transfer portal and NIL have made our world crazy in regards to continuity. We're hopeful that that's going to change with us here moving forward. It's definitely been a challenge with all the new guys that we have on our roster and in our program. But I've loved this group. They really like each other. They get along. I think because of those reasons, we're only going to get better as the year goes on. But definitely just a fun, hardworking group and a joy to be around every day.
Looking ahead to this weekend, you head to the Treasure State. You face Montana on Thursday. Their last loss was to Idaho State, have won the last 6 straight since that game. What will it take for you guys to get the season sweep?
Our staff just had that conversation here in the office. Not only have they won every game since we've played them, but I think they've only lost 1 game in their own building so far this year. We know that they're much better probably than what they were at our place a month ago. Honestly, the second half of that game, that's probably the best an Idaho State team has maybe ever played. Seemed like everything was working. All of our shots were going in. We defended well. We know that to beat them again at their place, we're going to have to be extremely good again.
After Montana, you head to Montana State to face the reigning tournament champions. How can road wins against Montana and Montana State this weekend help set the tone for the final few weeks of the regular season?
I think anyone can look at the standings from about 3 to 8 right now. There's a big log jam. The teams that can find a way to win some road games here down the stretch are going to probably find themselves in a great spot in the standings at the end of the year. Traditionally, this has been a tough road trip for us. We know both games are going to be hard. I think both teams are extremely talented. Both have very good coaches. We're going to just try to put our best foot forward, and I think winning at Weber on the road gave us a lot of confidence the other night.
Kourtney Grossman may be a true freshman, but she's made a major impact for Eastern Washington. Hear from her next.
I have wandered for thousands of years. I always had to run and hide.
Hey, how's it going?
But I think I've found a place I can explore the rest of my days. My first photo,
Another left.
taken in Pocatello, Idaho.
Perfect.
Your footprint is welcome.
Welcome back to This Week in Big Sky Basketball. I'm Megan Robinson, joined now by Eastern Washington's Kourtney Grossman. Kourtney, you are a true freshman, the second leading scorer for the Eagles. How would you describe your first season in Cheney?
It's just been super fun. It's been, I'm really grateful for the opportunity. I definitely didn't expect it to be going this way when I came in, but I'm super grateful and it's been a lot of fun.
I've heard from other college athletes that adjusting from playing in high school to playing in college can be hard. What's been the hardest part of this transition for you?
I think the hardest part of the transition was probably learning how to use my voice on the court and talking to my teammates. I feel like in high school, communication is something that isn't really as emphasized, but here in college, like on the first day of practice, that was something that was really talked about and it's emphasized throughout the game. I definitely noticed that when we're talking as a team, we play a lot better.
What's been the coolest part of this transition from high school to being an impact player your first year in college?
The coolest part has just been seeing some work pay off, and the coolest part has also been just being able to play with some really, really good upperclassmen that are super supportive, super welcoming, and they're always sharing their knowledge with me and trying to help me get better. And yeah, just learning a lot from them, and I'm super grateful to have them and just have such good teammates that are trying to help me grow.
Haven't even completed your first full season yet. However, where do you think your game has grown the most from day one of practice until now?
A little bit of everything. I definitely have a long ways to go. I have a lot of things I need to improve, but I think the coaches really from day one, they emphasize if you want to get on the court, just learn how to rebound and just go get rebounded. So I feel like that's kind of been like something that I've like really stuck to. It's just been if I want to make an impact, then just try and go rebound. And that's something that I didn't really focus on as much in high school, but I definitely focused on it more now.
Big picture, the Eagles secured their first and second road wins of the season over the weekend. What do those wins do for your team's confidence as we approach the last 2.5 weeks?
It's definitely boosted the morale for sure. But I think that throughout the season with some tough losses, we can't really focus too much on the outcome of the game. I think even during losses, there's still things that we can take from the game that we did well, and during wins, there's still things that we can take from the game that we need to improve on. So despite the record, just kind of taking every game and not looking at it as a win or a loss, but more just like as lessons that we can learn from that.
Second time around facing Idaho this weekend. What were the biggest takeaways from that game that you can learn from this second time around?
I think definitely just playing together, moving the ball, and then having fun and just like bringing the energy from the beginning. I think when our team has good energy warm-ups and we really focus on having that sense of urgency right from the start of the first quarter, then the games tend to go better for us.
In that first meeting, Olivia Nelson had 29 points for the Vandals. What will be the key to slowing her down?
Definitely corralling her in transition. I think she's a really great player, and she pushes the ball really well. So just knowing where she is, being able to slow her down, and she gets the ball in a fast break. And yeah, just taking pride in our defense and talking on defense a lot and working together, making it a whole group effort.
Less than a month until Starch Madness takes over Boise. Full preview with Tony Parks after this.
Beautiful.
Starch Madness is back this March as the Big Sky men's and women's basketball championships return to Boise. 5 days of heart-pounding action begin on March 8th and run through March 12th, with all 10 Big Sky schools fighting for a bid to the NCAA tournament. Don't miss a chance to watch your team cut down the nets this March and experience Starch Madness up close and personal. Tickets are on sale now at StarchMadness.com. Back here with This Week in Big Sky Basketball. Someone familiar to the Big Sky in the house, Tony Parks. You've been at this tournament for a while, less than a month until Starch Madness takes Boise. What's your favorite part of heading up there every year?
I think getting up there, you can feel the energy, the enthusiasm, the excitement. I mean, right when you get there, you can feel that it's one and done. You can feel that the season has all come down to this, and you have to be at your very, very best. And everybody feels that way, from coaches to the staff there with the Big Sky, the players, obviously. Joe and I definitely feel that responsibility to be that way. It's truly the ultimate Big Sky experience. It's the way it should feel when you get there, and it's the way it should feel when you watch the games.
It's your 4th year calling the tournament. A lot of great moments. What are some of your favorite that you've been on the call?
I don't think there's anything that could beat the Oakland Fort three-pointer against Eastern Washington a couple of years ago.
Here come the Lumberjacks. No timeouts. Jalen Cone wrapped up. Fort for the win. Got it!
Oh my.
And the 1 seed is one and done.
I mean, this freshman who hadn't hit a three-pointer in nearly a month coming into the tournament, he wasn't really known as much as some of the other players on that team. Northern Arizona was a 5-win team. Had they won the tournament, they would have become the lowest win percentage NCAA tournament team ever, and they nearly pulled it off. But that day, they pulled off this magical upset, and it was truly fitting because that team had their hearts broken more than anybody. They were the ultimate playing winning basketball and making losing plays. Well, suddenly, Lady Luck fell their way, and they couldn't have been more deserving. So being a part of that special moment was second to none.
Talk about that NAU run. Perfect segue. The 7 to 10 teams have had great success in recent years. Montana State won last year as a 5 seed. Which team in the middle of the pack on the men's side do you think will be the most dangerous threat down the stretch in Boise?
Well, once again, I think it's Montana State. You know, I hate to just say that because they won it last year, but Coach Logie's ability to coach so well and help his team be the very best when they need to be, there's nothing like that. And Coach Payne, who was great with player development, he showed that obviously with John Olmstead last year. And so you really are keeping an eye on them going, hey, never count this team out. Other than that, I think Idaho State, with their ability to rebound so well, they're the second youngest team when it comes to lack of Division I experience, 17th lowest in the country, but they play hard, they play together, they're so well coached. They could be a real scare in this thing. And then as far as the 7 to 10 seeds, Eastern Washington has the least amount of D1 experience in the Big Sky, 5th lowest in the country. But all of a sudden, they suddenly have the second best defense in terms of defensive efficiency, number 1 in defensive effective field goal percentage. Dan Monson, 28 years in doing this, couldn't think of a better guy to coach a team in that situation.
All right, Tony, I'm a first-timer in Boise. There'll be other first-timers there watching their kids play. What are your recommendations of the go-to spots near the arena?
Anywhere when it comes to those restaurants. No, you walk around anywhere. Find a pizza joint, find a late-night bar, find it, there's not a bad burger in that town. You just go around. Just don't go to the chain restaurants. Go to some of the cool places. They have some great food down there. Look, as a Chicago guy, I'm not going to say it's the same, but it definitely is way underrated. When people say, how is Boise? What's that like? I'm like, every single day I'll find something for lunch, something new. So when you go out there, I always tell people, go find your own spots. Don't just follow what I say. There's going to be all kinds of places. Other than that, I spend a lot of time at that Jackson's gas station because I have a lot of odds and ends to pick up.
Well, awesome, Tony. Cannot wait. Less than a month until that tournament tips off. Here's a look at the brackets based on the current standings. Final brackets will be revealed after all games conclude on Monday, March 3rd. You can find the final bracket plus all the tournament information at StarchMadness.com. We will be back with more This Week in Big Sky Basketball, going inside the Big Sky with Colter Nuanez after this.
The secret to happiness is discovering your spot. It could be over the mountain or deep beneath the stream, in a quiet place, in a wild place.
Life is good, yeah.
The question is, where does your spot take you? Pocatello. Life is good here.
Welcome back to This Week in Big Sky Basketball. I'm Megan Robinson, joined now by Skyline Sports, Colter Nuanez. We're going to go inside the Big Sky presented by Visit Pocatello. Colter, Montana got revenge on Northern Colorado this weekend with their 86-78 win over the Bears, extending their win streak to 6, edging out NAU on the road. How big of a statement did the Grizz make this weekend?
Well, big time, because I think both the win in Greeley, but then also to follow it up with the win in Flagstaff is huge for Montana. This is a program that Travis DeCuire had atop the league year in and year out before the pandemic, and they've certainly been competitive since the pandemic. And last year, I mean, they won 24 games. They went to a postseason tournament, so it's not like they've been down or anything like that. But this team is his best team in the post-pandemic era. And I think that was affirmed not only by the impressive performance against Northern Colorado, but then to stamp it against a team that in NAU that I think is better than their record. Montana now, they take a ton of momentum into this stretch run, and I think it's in a favorable stretch run as well. They still have to play in Bozeman, certainly, but they've already played Idaho twice. They've already played Northern Colorado and Northern Arizona twice. So they have several of the better teams in the league already in the rear view. So Montana's certainly inside track on the league title now after this weekend.
Another team that has been heating up is Idaho State, winning 3 of their last 4. Dylan Darling scoring at least 20 points in all 4 of those games, had a career-high 30-point night on Saturday. How impressive has Darling been for the Bengals?
Boy, absolutely unbelievable. He is absolutely a front runner for MVP. It's going to be fascinating. I know we're going to talk about that next week, but it's going to be fascinating to see how that all plays out too, because look at the 2 teams in the top, Montana and Northern Colorado. They both do it by committee, and they have so many good players. They spread the ball around. Make no mistake, Dylan Darling has completely taken the league by storm. I mean, he has made Idaho State several spots in the standings better just from his performance. I love the swagger that he plays with, and what a get by Idaho State to get him to transfer from Washington State. He was such a highly regarded player out of high school, and then he got hurt at Wazoo and kind of fell out of the rotation, and here he is now, making big waves in Pocatello. I think he's absolutely the newcomer of the year. If he doesn't win MVP, if he wins MVP, they'll probably give the newcomer of the year to somebody else. But I think that he's absolutely been one of the biggest impact newcomers in the conference so far this year.
I got to watch him in person on Saturday night, and he is very fun to watch in person. He told me before the game that this season has helped him fall in love with basketball again after that injury. The season-ending injury from last season, and it shows with his performance on the court for sure. Moving over to the women's side, Montana State got the season sweep over NAU, the number 2 team in the conference. On paper, that was their biggest test remaining in the regular season. What teams, if any, could pose a problem for the Bobcats these last few weeks?
Well, always the Lady Grizz, just because it's a rivalry. Montana certainly ridden the roller coaster. Brian Holsinger, the head coach, he resigned as we record this here today, earlier this week. So that's certainly been some tumult for Montana, but they took Montana State down the wire. Granted, that was in Missoula. They're going to have a huge home court advantage when that game comes to Bozeman. But, rivalry games, you always have to say either side could win. But I think Idaho is probably the other big test for Montana State. Here's the thing about the Cats, though, is, we talk about trap games. We talk about where can you, stub your toe. It's really, really, really hard to play really great basketball 20 weeks in a row or 21 weeks in a row or however many, I guess it would be 10 or 11 weeks in a row, but 20, 21, 22 games in a row, which that's where Montana State would be if they were to run the table, given the win streak they had in the non-conference into conference play. The thing about the Cats, though, is that so often when you fall into a trap game, it's when you go on the road and you can't make a shot. Well, Montana State's already gone on the road and couldn't make a shot in multiple of their wins over the last couple weeks. Like the old coaching cliche goes, defense travels, and that's what Montana State does better than anybody. It doesn't matter if they shoot 25% or 55%. If they shoot 55%, they're probably going to run you out of the gym and beat you by 25. But they've figured out a way to win by a possession or 2 or 3 because they force so many turnovers. They're just going to get more shots up than you because they're going to take the ball away from you. And they just have such incredible depth. When you play 11, it's pretty hard to have all 11 young ladies not find some sort of a rhythm or a groove and have everybody have a cold shooting night. So Montana State continues to roll. And after this last weekend, I do think that they have the most difficult part of their schedule in the rear view. Now I think the biggest opponent Montana State has is the narrative more than just the teams that they're playing. Can they handle the pressure? Like if they have a chance to go undefeated and be the first team in the new like scheduling era, basically, the Lady Grizz ran the table several times back in the day, but in terms of like the 18 to 20 game schedule in this sort of modern era, no one's ever ran the table in that scenario. If Montana State has the ability to do that, how do they handle the pressure and all the talk about it? I mean, they're getting covered like everybody in the – I mean, they are the top team in terms of coverage right now in the conference, I'd say. They're getting play on this show. They're getting play from a regional level. They're obviously getting tons of play in Montana. So how can they handle that pressure? I think that's probably one of, if not their biggest obstacles moving forward.
It's going to be fun to see how all this plays out in the final bracket that we get for our tournament in Boise, which is officially less than a month away. If you want to hear more from Colter and his Big Sky basketball insight, tune into Around the Big Sky Women's Hoops, 4 p.m. Wednesdays Mountain Time, and Around the Big Sky Men's Hoops, 4 p.m. Thursdays Mountain Time, everything on Skyline Sports. Colter, I really appreciate you being here every week.
Thanks so much for having me.
And thank you all for joining me for another episode of This Week in Big Sky Basketball. I will see you all next Wednesday for our regular season finale. For all the latest Big Sky content, subscribe to our YouTube channel.